I'm alive. I'm alive.
Do you lose weight, Samba?
Yeah. Some people don't because you eat so late and then from there you are so fatigued from the day. So you just want to go to sleep. So you eat and go to sleep, which is not good for you. But I'm usually active during the day, so that kind of helps balance it out. But some people gain weight, some people lose weight. I'm more of on the right of the losing weight, and then as soon as it's done, I'm like plump back up.
I gotta tell you, I could be dieting or on some sort of restricted, starvation diet for a month and still gain weight. So my hats off to you.
You look good. You look good.
Who's your friend, Mary? Who's your friend? I see a tail.
Yeah, that's my cat. She's, she bosses me around, and if she wants something, she gets right in front of my face, walks all over the keyboard, she will not leave me alone until I obey.
All right, well, y'all ready to get started?
Yes,
We
sir.
are.
All right, let's do it then. Welcome I've totally lost track of how many times we have met via Zoom now, but welcome. Happy to see you all this morning, and looks like you're all bright and shiny and smiley, and that's a good thing. And I see we have a visitor from one of our sister chapters, Miss Mary. It's always good to see you.
Good morning.
So,
Hi, Mary. Anna. Hello.
So as usual, we're going to start out with our moment of inspiration, and our other Miss Mary Jones, has agreed to cover that for us this morning. So Mary, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I was trying to be inspiring. So this is what I have to share this morning. Not to take away from the teachers, I wanted to call out to the parents who are being forced into a role they weren't necessarily trained for. To be an educator, it takes much more than just a teaching certificate, college, and regurgitating, chapters from a book. We all know that it's not necessarily the lucrative income that is the reason why teachers went into that business. I believe it's a calling, and it takes a completely separate skill set most people aren't prepared for, don't know how to use, don't know how to draw on. Personally speaking, when my 4 children were small, I had them, and I did like every other mom at that time. 6 weeks later, they went into daycare. I hired my help. I've hired the aid of daycare and the educators at those daycare centers. I've used Boy Scouts, the YMCA, the schools, both public and private. So I had relied an awful lot on those organizations to help me raise boys. What do I know about being a boy? I needed that help. So, it occurred to me, my son, and I know you guys have this going on, my son and his former wife are trying to teach their 6, almost 7-year-old at home, and neither one of them have the educational background to call themselves teachers. Ryan is working, and Autumn, unfortunately, is having to work her full-time job at home, and they share custody every other week. They bounce that boy back and forth. So Autumn is working by herself in her home, and at the same time, she is trying to entertain and educate a 7-year-old. Now, I love my grandson, but I can barely get through a day with him, and I like to think that, I have a lot of experience with boys, but I'll tell you, that's a lot of work. My niece and her husband are doing the same thing. So, you know, I just wanted to call out to the parents out there who are managing to do this insurmountable, in my opinion, task of trying to pick up the ball only with the guidance of what they're hearing the, you know, chapters and the work to be. You know, I just want to say my hat's off to mom and dad and everybody else who's helping mom and dad, might be aunts and uncles, grandparents, who are really helping to try and keep it really, you know, that statement, it takes a village, cannot be any more true.
Mhm.
So that's my inspirational moment for the day.
And
Thank you,
inspiring it is. That's great. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. So next on the agenda, we typically introduce visitors. And Mary Jacoby, you know what? I made an assumption that everybody in our club already knows you, but maybe that's not the case. So would you take a moment and introduce yourself?
Certainly. Thank you, Tom. I am Mary Jacoby. I work as the Community Relations Officer here for Dad Cute Credit Union in Southern Denton County, and I'm a member of the Flower Mound Club, past president in the happy world of past presidents, and just wanted to visit with you guys. I try to visit your club at least once a year because you guys, God bless you guys, get up early and go to Rotary, and I love you for it, but you know, the club meets at noon. So you guys are always welcome to join our club. We're Zooming as well these days. But I told Tom, I was like, well, since you guys are meeting at 8 o'clock and I have to roll from one room to the other, I have to manage to make it. So, and I do know quite a few of you, but for those that don't, it's good to see you this morning. And I know you guys are doing great things. So thank you for letting me be here today.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and you just come and visit any old time, whenever you can roll yourself out of bed.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom.
I believe there isn't everybody that doesn't. Mary, everybody knows Mary Jacoby.
What's something about the name Mary? I don't know what it is, Mary. I think we're more infamous than anything else, but that's all right.
We love Mary.
Thank you.
Well, it's funny because I have so many Marys in my life. My oldest sister's name was Mary, and so now I have Mary Jones, Mary Jacoby, Mary Hunt. I can't seem to get away from the Marys. All right. Well, how about we do some happy thoughts? So I'm not going to call anybody in particular. So if you've got a happy thought you'd like to share, speak up.
Not at once, everybody.
I'll start. I'm happy I go up today to City Hall and get sworn in or sweared at one for my second term as city councilman.
All right. Way to go, Joe. And if you need somebody to swear at you, we can oblige.
I think there's plenty at City Hall that do that already.
Yeah, congratulations, Joe.
Congratulations.
I have to go through that on Monday, so
All right, Bob. Fabulous.
for my new
Yes.
and I guess that's it for now.
Okay.
Well, I have a broken ankle, but fortunately there are enough doctors in the neighborhood that it's under treatment. I'm sure I'll recover.
Gordon, how did you break your ankle?
I was playing golf. I leaned over to tee the ball up. I fell on my right leg. I already had Parkinsonism. I think that's when it happened.
Yeah.
It took 2 weeks before I got it diagnosed, but
Oh my goodness.
it's under control now. Let's
Did they
be
blame
grateful.
this on the COVID-19 also?
What is it?
So did they blame that on the COVID-19 also?
No, I was playing by myself with my mask on, keeping 10 feet distance, and I don't know why. It's just a nuisance. So I'm sort of restricted. I have to go to all my club meetings by Zoom, that's okay. At least,
Yeah.
Gordon, did you call for a mulligan on that shot?
I play by myself. I'm so slow, so
Oh,
I can always take the shot over and not count it. So.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, who else?
My turn.
Okay.
I have 5 happy thoughts.
Wow, it's going to cost you a lot of money, Marilyn.
Yeah, very unusual. One of my happy thoughts is I got my hair cut on Tuesday, and I am a super happy person. I can go in the shower and wash my hair and go woof, 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 and it's done. Number 2 happy thought is in conjunction with Mary Jones. What a delightful experience with our company and Safeguard and putting together the brochure that we needed to put together for our son's medical office.
thank you.
Rotary Rises, I just reviewed the presentation that John put together for District 5790 Rotary Rises, where in conjunction with the Rotary Foundation and district designated funds, members and clubs, we collected $161,000 for COVID-19 to give back to the community in 5790, be it medical or food or a electric bill that needs to be paid. So that is really something extraordinary that one district was able to accumulate $161,000.
It's fabulous.
Yeah. I'm giving a shout out to my wonderful husband for all the stuff that he's been doing because of my stupid knee. And my knee is going to be going through a procedure on May 26th, hoping that my knee will be out of pain. And the last one is from Mother's Day, and we had a family Zoom meeting. Jody in Ohio and Jeff in North Carolina and our 5 grandkids, although they weren't all there. But it was just really a neat experience. Best Mother's Day gift I could possibly have received was to just see them.
That's great, all, Marilyn.
That's 5.
Yep. Okay. Very good. And no charge today. So
yeah.
I think we ought to set up a system of Terry sending people bills when they do a happy thought.
No, I think we could wait till the next treasurer for that.
Yeah, Tom can do that.
Actually, that's my first happy thought. My second happy thought is, and this should feed into what Mr. Roche is talking about here shortly, is that I'm double, what do you call that? Doing double duty right now as I'm paying bills for our club, paying out donations for what the board has voted on. And the good thing is I'm not using my money.
Well, why don't I take over here from you, Terry, and talk a little bit about why you're doing all of that, because that's one of my happy thoughts. We had a really good board of directors meeting on Tuesday night via Zoom, and we've been talking a lot the last couple of weeks about the fact that we were not going to incur some of the expenses that we had budgeted, and therefore we might have some extra money to be able to donate to various organizations that were working hard in the COVID-19 arena. And so I just want to share with you what the decisions were. You already knew that our chapter had pledged $500 to the Rise Up campaign that Marilyn talked about. So that's part of that $161,000. So that left us with $900 to do something with. And we had several recommendations on where we might spend that money. And the board decided that all of them were very worthy, but we really wanted to focus in areas that had to do with food, housing, medical, that kind of thing. And so a motion was made and passed, and we are splitting that it's $1,200 left over 4 ways. So you know that we have previously made a donation to CCA in the amount of $800 and to Salvation Army in the amount of $500. So one of the recipients is the Salvation Army. We're going to give them an additional $300 to bring them up to the same level as the donation to CCA. Another $300 is going to Love Packs. If you're not aware of them, they are an organization that helps to feed school children at times when schools are not in session, and kids that depend on the meal that they get while they're in school wouldn't otherwise get the meal. So we're going to help out with that. We're also donating $300 to Nightlight Charities, which our esteemed member John Picorni serves on their board of directors. I kind of think of them as a safety net. They're an organization that helps people out financially whenever they fall into a situation where they're in dire need of maybe money for medicine or for rent or utilities, and they're kind of on that edge. And so we wanted to support that organization. Another $300 is going to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I told you a little bit about their campaign that they're in the middle of a couple of weeks ago. I've been a volunteer for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for years, and I had been asked to participate in a fundraising campaign, and I kind of didn't want to do it because I didn't feel like it was right to be asking for money for something other than COVID-19 initiatives. And lo and behold, they are helping cancer patients with COVID-19 assistance. And I misquoted at the board of directors meeting. I told them that they had already made contributions financially to patients with cancer of over $1.5 million, and I stand corrected, it's over $2.5 million. So that's pretty amazing. And it seems like I've forgotten one. Can anybody help me out?
That was it. That's all 4 of them.
All right, very good. So that's one of my happy thoughts. The other one is that my wife and I got to go sit on our grandchildren's lawn for half an hour and have a socially distanced meeting with them yesterday. So
how fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. My grandsons are at that point where they'll just talk your ear off about nothing you know anything about. Usually something to do with some game on the computer that they're playing, but it was still a lot of fun. So any other happy thoughts before we wrap that up?
Yeah, oh, sorry. I have one after you, so.
Okay. I want to tag a little bit along with what Marilyn and Tom were saying. But in my duties with the district, I was responsible for running a survey to find out what our 73 clubs were doing during COVID-19. Were they having meetings? Were they morning boards meeting? Were they having service projects? And if they were having service projects, what were they? And I have to tell you, after getting the information back, I am so proud to be a Rotarian. I mean, our district, in addition to the $161,000 Rotary Rises was raised, we didn't ask them to provide dollars. Some did, some didn't. But I would have to bet, in addition to that $161,000, we probably, Rotary in District 5790 probably raised an additional, at least not raised, donated, clubs just like ours doing things like Tom was just talking about, over $100,000.
Wow.
And that doesn't even include those members that were not at risk and are continuing to volunteer. Some of our members, even though they're at risk, they're volunteering making masks. That doesn't include their labor. If we add in the labor for that, it's got to be clearly $500,000 that Rotary has put into District 5790. And that makes me beam.
Yep.
That's my happy thought.
It's a good reason to be proud, isn't it, John?
It is.
Okay, I heard another voice.
I said I had one after John, and real quick, you reminded me when you talked about love packs. I was volunteering for Love Packs and actually went helped hand out meals at Huffine School. When the doctor told me after our video call, don't do that anymore because you're old. So that's when I started making the masks. But Love Packs was who I was volunteering for. And as soon as things open up again a little bit, and I'm going to go back to doing that because it's marvelous what they're doing, and a lot of it happens out of people's garages. You know, they give up their garage and pack all this food, and they got trailers on their driveways, and I mean it's just what people are doing, and that is what makes me happy about Love Packs. It is truly people helping people. So
that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Deanna.
Deanna, I have the name of a really good doctor who won't accuse you of being old.
She really never said that. That's my words, because, you know, apparently when you're over 65, you're elderly. So, I'm supposed to sit at home now and sew masks, which I have done and enjoy doing it, but I really like getting out there and actually getting in the meat of it and helping people, but I'll do what the doctor said for now.
Okay.
Deanna, you're only as old as you feel, and I know you don't feel elderly, so.
I don't. I don't.
Paying a copay to hear that. I just want to remind you. Hey, I have a happy thought. Mother's Day came, and here it's always kind of a fun thing. So the first thing in the morning, I got up and there was a dozen roses from Taylor. He's my middleman, sitting on the counter with a really sweet note. And so, of course, I saw him and I said, thank you so much. That is so sweet. Not to be outdone, a few hours later, my youngest son came home with not just a pot of flowers, but a bottle of wine. Okay. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. Finally, my oldest son comes in and he brings me a card and a book that I used to read, he and his older brother, when they were really little boys. It's called I Love You Forever. And real heartful. And of course, I started to cry. I didn't realize you could even find that. I guess it went back into print in 2018. And he wrote a real sweet note on the inside cover of it. And of course, then I started crying again. And so he looked at me and he said, I won, didn't I? Oh my gosh, all this time I didn't realize there was a competition going on. So,
that's hilarious.
I said, no, you're my favorite oldest son. So that was Mother's Day here. So there's my biggest happy thought.
Well, that's a good one.
I have a happy thought.
All right.
All right. Mine is Deanna. Deanna, anyone who has ever seen you on the dance floor knows you're not an old lady.
Thank you. I'll remember that. Thank you, Roxanne. I'm dying to get on a dance floor.
I love that. That's
for the day.
Hey, Tom, I have one. This is Ray.
Hey, Ray.
It's kind of like hey, good morning. This is really announced on Saturday starting at 12 noon at the Westside Baptist Church at 900 Bel Air. We have 25 big pallets of food. It's very quality food. It's fresh food and dry food. Now, this is for anybody who feel that they need to subsidize. If you got kids at home, you know, it's not necessarily, the people who are very, very poor, but this is a way to subsidize. You got kids at home, or your hours been reduced, or your bonus been reduced. This is good quality food that you can use to subsidize. your family budget and use that money on something else. Just kind of give you an idea, the makeup of the people who've been coming there. It's been Hispanic, about 10% American, 10% Asian, and the other 50% to everyone else. So it's a very diverse group of people who just need a little subsidy. In some cases, they might just need to have that food to feed their family. So from 12 noon or until the food run out. So if you know anyone that can help, and again, there's no stigma associated with this. Just come by and pick the food up.
Ray, what is the location? What is the name again? I'm sorry.
It's the Westside Baptist Church. It's the 900 campus.
Okay.
There will be people there that will direct the traffic. Everyone will be safe. All the volunteers will be safe, and they will put the food in your car, your trunk, or your truck. So just encourage your friends.
I was just going to say that makes me happy that you shared that, because I think that kind of activity is just so important and is becoming so much more so as we hear more and more about people who have become unemployed because of the pandemic. So appreciate that.
I wonder if we could put a post out on our social media about that.
Bet. We would love it. I sent the board a copy of it. I can resend that to you again, Art. The announcement.
I think I have it.
Okay. But please,
all right.
Please post it.
Fabulous. All right, guys. So let's move on so that we have time for our illustrious speaker today. So, Mark, time for This Week in History.
Okay. Let's start with May 10th in 1869. The Transcontinental Railroad was completed, which unified the United States. So it was the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific Railroads, where they met together in Promontory, Utah, and connected the two rail lines. 1994, Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as South Africa's first Black president. In 1940, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of Britain. In 1924, J. Edgar Hoover began his 48-year tenure as the FBI director. May 11th, 1997, chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov resigned after 19 moves in a game against Deep Blue, a chess-playing computer developed by scientists at IBM. He actually played 6 games against the computer, and he lost 2 of the games, won 1, and had 3 draws. 1981, reggae star Bob Marley died at 36. In 1947, B.F. Goodrich announced the development of the tubeless tire. In 1932, the kidnapped Charles Lindbergh baby was found dead. In 1846, the U.S. Congress declared war on Mexico in a dispute over Texas. In 1981, Pope John Paul II was shot and seriously wounded in St. Peter's Square.
Oh my.
In 1607, some 100 English colonists arrived on the east bank of the James River in Virginia and founded Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in North America. And I don't know if you guys remember the Battle of the Sexes, but in 1973, Bobby Riggs played Margaret Court in the first Battle of the Sexes tennis match. And then after that, he played the famous one with Billie Jean King a few months later.
Yep.
In 1804, the Lewis and Clark expedition set off to explore northwest from the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean. 1973, America's first space station, Skylab, was launched. May May 14th, 1998, Frank Sinatra died of a heart attack in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
May 16th, 1929, the first Academy Awards ceremony was held in Hollywood. And in 1985, scientists at the South Pole announced the discovery of an ozone hole. The first time that was really discovered. So that was this week in history.
Well, that was good. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Mark. Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. So I have to tell you all, another happy thought for me is I am loving these biographies that we are doing within the club. It's just so great to get to know a little bit more about all of you. And so a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to Miss Taylor and asked her if she'd be willing to share. And she came right back and said, of course. So I'm very happy to turn the mic over to Taylor to tell us her story. So Taylor, it's all yours.
Good morning, guys. So the first thing that I want to say is that I actually have a 5th grade uncle that was part of the Lewis and Clark expedition. So
Oh, wow.
that's our family's only claim to fame. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. So, you know, I thought back through this, and then Marilyn shared her story yesterday or last week. And, you know, first of all, I have a pretty terrible memory. So, you know, this is actually going to be pretty short starting there. And then also, I just don't have as much experience. But we'll do a quick recap. I think Tom asked for like 20 to 30 minutes. We'll get to like 10 to 15, I think.
That's because you're younger and you haven't accumulated.
I know. And you're just so organized. I am not that organized. So a little bit of just how I got to Rotary. So I would say, I guess I can. Oh.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. So Marilyn, I put growing up still. I'm still growing up. So all throughout childhood, you know, my parents were very supportive and everything that we did was trying to give back. So I spent a lot of time in church and in the nursery volunteering and, you know, watching throughout sermons and also volunteering for, you know, whatever meals or whatever was going on at the church. You know, that was where a lot of it started. I guess my volunteering never really kicked in until high school. And so you'll see that I have a note here and it says, I am an INFJ. Empathy is my greatest strength. And you guys, I cry all the time. So this is me thinking back to my experience and I guess how much it really changed my life. So I am a huge nerd and I always have been. So if you guys haven't heard of Hobie as an organization, it's actually a program, it's a leadership conference where they take one person from each high school in the state. So what it is brings together all sorts of people who wouldn't get to be their normal selves if they were still in their high school. So they focus on leadership and they focus on volunteering. And what they require is that to come back and volunteer with them again, you actually have to spend so many hours volunteering throughout the next year. So after that, my only goal in high school was to be able to go back to Hobie and volunteer again and get to help those high school sophomores that were like me. I'm gonna go get a Kleenex and
Oh my God, she is too cute.
Yes, she is.
Okay, so after my first year at Hobie, I started volunteering at the local Boys and Girls Club. So I was 15 or 16 at the time. And there were some other volunteers there who, you know, were also in high school. You know, they were doing things for National Honor Society and volunteering. And working with all those kids, I tutored a lot. And we eventually got to a point where they hired me So I lost out on my volunteer time, but I was able to work there. So I worked there for probably a year and a half. And, you know, I was hired on at 17, and they told me that I wasn't allowed to tell anyone how old I was because there were kids there who were older than me. So got to help out, spent a lot of time making ramen noodles for those kids. I still have never eaten actual ramen noodles to this day, partially because of that. I crushed up so many noodles that when I got to college, I think I would have rather eaten anything. So that was really what started everything. You know, I'll admit that I've been pretty selfish in my life. I would say not in a bad way, I definitely worked to grow myself. So a lot of, you know, so in college, I decided that I wanted to do a co-op program. So what that was as an engineer, you do 5 years of school basically, but when you leave, you've got about 2 years of work experience. So I had decided that I wanted to be an engineer. I had no idea what that meant or what I wanted to do. So, you know, I had heard of so many people spending 5 years in college anyway. It seemed like it wasn't a huge deal for me to spend an extra year and get 2 years of work experience. So I signed up for this co-op program, and I had to decide what kind of engineer I wanted to be to apply for the roles. So I took the little sheets of job opportunities, and I picked the type of engineering with the most opportunities. So I am a mechanical engineer.
Smart girl.
And I actually ended up working with a biomedical company. So I worked for DePuy Orthopedics, and I worked on shoulder replacements. And I'm gonna cry again because the most touching moment that we ever had, we had probably maybe biannually, just like company updates. And every time they'd bring in someone who had one of the replacements. So someone came in one time and it was a man, and this is seriously, guys. We're sitting there. It was, so I was part of the smallest group in the company, and it was me and another female who were sitting next to each other. And this guy stands up and said, you know, I got a shoulder replacement, and the greatest thing about it was that I'm able to hug my wife again. He just totally broke down. So in general, I think I try to associate myself with companies that are doing the right things and with products that are doing the right things. And, you know, when I look at who I am as a person, I'm a golden retriever. If you guys have taken those animal personality inventories before, that is entirely who I am. But sometimes I dress up like a lion to get things done. So,
oh gosh.
I definitely hadn't heard this before, maybe a year and a half ago. All of these studies talk about millennials being lazy. And when I first heard it, of course, I was like, what the heck, nuh-uh. And when I started listening to it more, the aspect that they were talking through was, you know, we're lazy in terms of, I won't talk for any of my other counterparts on this, but when I heard it, I knew it was me. So we're lazy in terms of making sure that finding opportunities isn't a huge hassle. So for me, finding those opportunities was around volunteering and giving back to the community. So like I said before, I try to partner myself with companies and organizations that do that. So my first job out of school was with Whirlpool. And so they partner with Habitat. And so we did a few Habitat builds while we were part of that. And that it's fantastic. I love it. I spent some time while I was with Whirlpool over in Italy, actually. And I was trying to look up volunteer opportunities while I was there, but surprise, they actually require you to speak Italian. And my Italian not that good. So we also, through Whirlpool, we also volunteered at the local Boys and Girls Club. We did a lot of STEM activities. We were basically, when I was at Whirlpool, I was part of an engineering rotational program. So that was what we went to the local club, and we did car races and other builds. So that was great. You know, it's having this view on things has also helped me identify where I don't want to be. So when I moved to Texas, I spent maybe 9 months with a different company before I shifted to Ream, and knowing what they stood for and what the culture was really like, I just couldn't partner myself with that. So I shifted to Ream, and it is, oh, you guys, it's great. So we have what's called the Heart of Comfort, and it's our, you know, charity, philanthropic, and volunteer arm. So if any of you met Brian and his daughter, they actually volunteered at Breakfast with Santa without me this year. That's what, you know, having a company organization to partner with and, you know, provide opportunities. So when I thought about Rotary, and this was entirely Bill Shaw, I've had, you know, friends' parents in the past who are part of Rotary, but I never really knew anyone who was young. But when I was able to look at some of the opportunities and, you know, what you guys do in the community, it was pretty easy for me to see that I wanted to partner with, you know, what you guys stood for. So throughout Rotary, I think the biggest thing is I've been able to identify some other opportunities that I enjoy doing. So got to be part of Light Up a Smile, which was fantastic, you guys. It was great. And then this year, I started volunteering at the CCA. And again, I'm lazy. It's right across the street. So I can take my Saturdays and go spend an hour or 3 hours there. And I haven't done it since all of this kicked in. So I'm really excited for things to open up as well, and kind of get back over there and give back. But, you know, I really see opportunity just in all of the connections that we're able to make. While I was at the CCA, I also got connected with the lady for Salvation Army, who was also at our event back in February or January. But basically I was looking for opportunities for my Ream team. So we've tried to identify those opportunities, and similarly to the Breakfast with Santa, I want to be able to help that group give back as well, and in the easiest way possible. So a lot of our workers are distribution center workers. So if we can have some opportunities to do things still in the distribution center and not have to leave, I think we've identified some things either through Salvation Army or Journey to Dream, packing up some bags. But, you know, overall, I love partnering myself with people who do such great things. And, you know, you guys do great things. And I appreciate it. But I mean, let's be honest, beer and Bill Shaw are what brought me here. So I am still appreciative that he made that connection. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
We're very happy to have you be here with us. All right. Well, Taylor, that was fabulous. And, you know, I never knew you were a crier, so I learned something new.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Hey, I have a question for you, Taylor.
Yeah.
You know, on your what is that? What you had posted up there, is that your presentation?
Yeah.
You have these two circles. Are those toilet seats or are they washing machines?
I didn't even talk about that. Okay, so yeah, so even the companies that I've worked for, the products that I make help people. So with Whirlpool, the biggest thing that I remember is that while I was there, we had created a refrigerator for the Indian market that could last through the power outages and the power spikes. So everything that, you know, we worked through there was to better people's lives. So I went from the medical devices for bettering people's lives to appliances for bettering people's lives, but I still see the value there. And now I'm in air conditioning. So we're in Texas, y'all. I can't live without air conditioning in the summer. I'm from the yeah, so even the products that I want to work on, like I'm no longer an engineer. I got my MBA and, you know, I'm kind of on the other side now, but like I still want to work with products that are doing what they can to better people's lives.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Well, now I understand why it is that you don't come to every single meeting, because I have to tell you, Taylor, our happy thoughts would have you in a pool of tears.
Make sure to accept in the summer. Yeah, and so that was actually, I had another picture just kind of a waterscape on there. And in May of last year, so our headquarters are in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And in May of last year, that whole river flooded. So the entire river valley was flooded. And, you know, as a company, we had people who were there at the food pantry serving food every night. And it just so happened that that was one of the weeks that I was traveling. So myself and my boss and one of our interns got to go over and help serve as well. So having those people everywhere, it helps my laziness and being able to give back just by all of the opportunities that are.
Oh my God. Well, okay, so now you're one of my happy thoughts today, Taylor. You're awesome. You are.
Yeah.
I have two questions. Where in Indiana did you grow up, and what school did you go to?
Okay, so I grew up in Northwest Indiana, so Crown Point area. I was in Porter County. But the med device place that I worked in was in Warsaw, Indiana. So I'm very familiar with that area. And I actually had, when I was at DePuy, I actually had I had a CAD designer who was Amish.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It blew my mind at that time because I couldn't wrap my head around it. But since I learned a little more, and then schools, I went to Purdue for engineering for undergrad.
Oh, good for you.
I actually went to IU for grad school. My MBA in Kelley School of Business. So, but I support Purdue in all sporting events. If IU plays them, I'm definitely a Purdue. First.
That's great.
And I guess.
All right. Any other questions for Taylor?
I'm just glad that there's another millennial in here. I was starting to think that like millennials just didn't find Rotary cool, and it was driving me nuts. And then I'm just like, okay, there's another millennial here. So,
I know, we may just have to like change the marketing campaign towards millennials to be like, it's so easy.
So we have to appeal to their lazy side, right?
We will hand you opportunities to get.
So you are tasked to bringing in more millennials to our club so you can change our mindset.
See what we can do. And then I was just going to say, you know, I forgot one of my happy thoughts. So my boyfriend James was actually laid off from Cisco in February.
Oh, no.
Before the bulk of all of this kicked in. And so his original end date was in March. Once they got to March, all of this had kicked in. They moved his end date to May. And just last week, they moved his end date to July. So we're really hoping that, you know, this helps push him through this. But all of that it's all time paid where he doesn't have to work. So he has his three kids, 50% of the time. So he is spending all of that time trying to teach them. So
Wow.
Blessings in disguise.
Yeah, silver lining.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. All right, well, Taylor, thank you so much for bearing your soul and crying for us on camera.
It'll happen again, I'm sure.
And sharing your story. That was really fascinating. So appreciate it very much.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to follow up. We haven't heard from Bill in a long time. Bill brought Taylor to our club. And just wanted everybody to know that he misses us too. I've had a couple of conversations with him. He's actively learning how to be a policeman right now. So he thinks about us often. I told him I'd pass that word on for him.
Oh, I appreciate that.
We miss him too.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that, John. So for the rest of the announcements that I have for you guys, we've got a couple of things in the hopper for potential topics for our next couple of meetings. So one thing that Bob reached out, and he has a lead on someone who might be willing to come and speak to us. And Bob, do you have any updates on that?
No, not yet, but I'm sure she will be available. So
okay, all right.
I will make sure I get in touch with her.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing that we've got in the hopper is the Central Elementary School bicycle giveaway. And John was going to reach out and see how we might be able to coordinate some of that. Last week we had the principal of the school on with us, and we were hopeful that we might be able to do some of the drawings while we were having our meeting. And John is working on trying to coordinate that. So more to come on that. So I am going to be in need of another person to volunteer for our next biography session, whenever that might be. It could be as early as next week, and it could be 3 weeks from now. So I need somebody who's willing to be really flexible and tell us their story when we're ready for you to tell us your story. So if anybody wants to volunteer, shoot me an email, and I will be happy to put you on the agenda. The other announcement, and I think you all probably already know this, is that the exercise that we did in last week's meeting regarding the buttons that Mary had suggested for the teachers. John did a great job of editing our recording of our meeting, and he sent that off to the school, and it got shared with all the teachers. John, how many responses did you get from teachers? It seemed like it was a lot.
It had to be somewhere near 20. I didn't count them.
Yeah, all of them very appreciative of even the fact that we were thinking of them. So just wanted everybody to be aware of that. So now my question is what announcements have I missed? Who's got something that I've forgotten about? Yes, sir, John.
Okay. Yeah, let me make sure I was unmuted. Monday, very busy Monday if you guys have the time. 10 a.m., Central Elementary School. We're going to have a drive-by. We've been invited to participate in a drive-by with the celebration Central Elementary School teachers and staff. And the drive-by is going to consist of Louisville high school students that were former Central Elementary students that they're coming back. So anybody that can make it, bring your cowboy hat, bring your boots, bring your Rotary vest, and let's cheer these youngsters on as they move into their next stage in life. The time is 10 a.m., Central Elementary School, 400 High School Drive in Louisville. Second thing for Monday, the 18th, is the Rotary International President will be speaking to our district on our district link, and you should have. I'm positive you all got a invitation to participate. I encourage, from what I understand, he's a phenomenal speaker. I've seen some videos of his work, and he's very engaging. It'll be time well spent. It's 3:30. If you can't find the link for it, give me a call or send me a message, and I'll make sure you get it. So I encourage you to sit in and listen to what Mark has to talk about. I'm sure he's going to have some reviews about our district. He's also going to be talking about all the other things that Rotary is doing, both nationally and internationally, to help fight COVID-19. Immediately thereafter, that meeting is going to end about 5:30. Immediately thereafter, if you can get in your car and drive up to Central Elementary, and we are going to have another drive-by that we're participating in with the teachers and staff at Central Elementary. And the drive-by is going to consist of 5th graders that are graduating to middle school. So their families are going to be driving by. We're going to cheer them on as they move to their next stage in life. Once again, come with your cowboy hats, come with your vest, and be ready to, and pom-poms, whatever you think is appropriate, be there to cheer them on. So as many of us that can make it and be there, love to see you there. They're very, you know, the school staff is very, very appreciative of everything our club does to support their students in this manner. That's my announcement.
Thanks, Sean. That's great. But yes, Bob.
Have an announcement about flags. We have at least 16 new subscriptions that have come in since in the last 2 weeks. Todd, I'm going to have another 4 or 5 requirements for new sleeves. Is Todd still here? No, I guess he's not. Anyway, so Todd and Samba, and then we've also gotten one renewal who dropped their subscription in 2016, and they're coming back. So
great.
And I'm almost afraid to send out. I'm planning to send out the renewal email tomorrow, and I would expect that once that goes out, I will probably be inundated with emails for the next. So anyway.
That's a good problem to have, right?
It's a good problem to have, yes. We haven't had this kind of early activity for several years. So yeah, looking good. And now I have to leave for another meeting. So have a great week, everybody.
You too, Bob.
Bye, Roxanne.
Do we have any other announcements? I have one more, but
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Is
Mary.
it possible that we can circle back with Tim and see if he can finish his presentation via Zoom?
With who? I'm sorry.
Tim Yasso from the city. He was doing the household hazardous waste.
Oh, of course, of course.
I was wondering if we could double back and see if he could do it via Zoom.
Yeah, so you know, he was scheduled probably the second week, and he told me then that he preferred to do it face to face.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I can always ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. All right.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Could either you or John maybe fill in what the plan is for the bikes so everybody knows? Whoever's got the most information. I think that's John's probably got the most information.
Yes, he probably does.
Yeah, well, here's my understanding. And as I say, I haven't spoken to the principal since and Charlene since Tom and I talked, but we are buying 12 bikes. We already have 2 of them. The plan is that the next meeting, Charlene will draw out of 6 hats. The star students in each grade that they have, starting with preschool, I'm sorry, kindergarten, and the criteria for them to be even in that hat is they have to have had perfect attendance through when school stopped as a result of COVID-19, and that their teachers have nominated them because of their level of engagement and learning and commitment to learning from when COVID-19 started to the point that the school is officially ending. So Charlene will have that hat. She will be drawing 2 names from each hat, and we'll be announcing that at the meeting. And of course, our role is when she pulls the name out of the hat, we got to go really cheer them because they'll probably be watching. We'll invite them. And the second piece of that is that once we know who these kids are and whether they're boys and girls and whether they're 6 foot tall or 6 inches tall,
6 inches.
We will be purchasing the bikes and make sure that the kids will be receiving bikes that fit them. We haven't worked out the logistic of how we're going to get those bikes into their hands. And that's yet to be seen.
Okay. Very good. I've got a vision now of a 6-inch bicycle. Short little.
Some teeny pedals.
All right. So my last announcement before I let you all go, I should have talked about this when I told you about the funds that we are donating. We as a board decided to take an optimistic approach. We left money in the budget for a potential pass the gavel event. There's every likelihood that we won't be able to do it, but we just weren't really ready to let go of the hope. And so the decision was that we would leave it there until such time as we know that we can't do it. And if that comes to pass, then of course those funds will be donated somewhere as well. So just wanted you all to know that. And if anybody else has another announcement, this is it, or we're about to adjourn. So, all right. Well, in that case, I'm going. Mary Jacoby, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff Siebert, I see you joined us, so I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you lead us in the 4-way test?
I certainly will. Join me in the 4-way test. First, is it the truth?
Right.
Second,
is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
will build goodwill and better
friendships.
And fourth,
will be beneficial to all
concerned. And fifth,
make it fun.
All right. Good to see y'all. Have a great
Good to see y'all.
Great
Everybody stay safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.